Great news, Devin Haney sent George Kambosos an offer he cannot refuse, as Eddie Hearn presented George Kambosos an offer to fight Devin Haney next for Undisputed for more money than Kambosos' entire net worth. Essentially, for more money than Kambosos made in his entire career, allegedly, making it an offer that Kambosos cannot refuse. It's not 1, 2, 3, nor 4 million. It's way more than that, which raises the question, will Kambosos honor his word of fighting Devin Haney next for legacy, money, and history, or will he join the Dodgers team to be another duck in the field, another Teofimo Lopez? Only time will tell. Kambosos recently posted, "Honor, pride, and never before history." Well, guess what? The Devin Haney fight is for all of the history in the world, for Undisputed, for honor and pride. To put icing on the cake, it's also for all of the money in the world. So there's no excuses. If Kambosos doesn't fight Devin Haney next, then he let his own country down, along with boxing and himself. But if he does honor his word and fight Devin Haney next for history, pride, and honor, then win or lose, he will be loved and respected. Something money can't buy is respect. Can you imagine how much credit Kambosos is going to receive for fighting the A-class boogeyman in the sport of boxing, for Undisputed in one of the deepest divisions in boxing? There isn't a bigger accomplishment than that. You either go hard or go home. However, if Kambosos turns the fight down, there isn't a bigger duck than that. Essentially, that's like breaking the scale when it comes to ducking. With the facts being laid out, as much as I want to be optimistic that George Kambosos will do the right thing and fight Devin Haney next to deliver the fight that the whole world wants to see, the reality, George Kambosos' statements as of late has suggested otherwise. If you recall Kambosos and Devin Haney latest back and forth, on one hand, Devin Haney is all serious, trying his best to take care of business in order to deliver the fight. On the other hand, Kambosos is telling Devin Haney to sell his jewelry. I mean, who does that? Why is Kambosos worried about another man's pocket and how he's spending his money? The only thing Kambosos needs to worry about is his own business and the offer Eddie Hearn sent him. If Devin has 3 million in jewelry, that's his business. If Kambosos wants to make that type of money, then fight Devin Haney. You can't make that type of money trolling Devin Haney. Haney earned that type of money because he's willing to fight everybody. So the $1 million question, is Kambosos willing to do the same in order to get his hand on that type of money? Because we all know taking a page out of Teofimo Lopez's trolling book is not gonna cut it. We all saw how that ended up for Teo, which is what Kambosos is starting to do here. Remember Teo calling Devin the email champion? And now Kambosos telling Devin Haney, sell your jewelry, while he has an offer on his table for more money than his entire net worth in order to fight Devin Haney next, sent by Eddie Hearn. But like Devin Haney is famously known for, they say everything and anything, but let's fight. Kambosos is telling Devin Haney, don't make me wait. Meanwhile, he has an offer on his table. Like, who does that? The only person that's waiting is Kambosos, which is equivalent to when Teo told the public he was going to send Devin Haney and Kambosos a contract, and whoever signs the contract first, that's who he's fighting. But peep this, he never sent Devin Haney a contract to this day. Now Kambosos is playing them same old games. The similarities between Kambosos and Teo are mind-blowing. Man, did they go to school together or something? Like, what's really going on? And check this out. While Kambosos and Devin Haney were going back and forth, Kambosos stated, quote, "I just want a real war for our fans. Hello, is anybody home?" Now Kambosos is claiming he wants a Hagler Hearn type of a fight. And you know what? The way Devin Haney fought his last two fights, Devin most likely will give it to him how he wants it. However, it's so hypocritical on Kambosos' behalf to now all of a sudden wants a real war, but when he fought Teofimo Lopez, he was on his bike majority of the night. He was flying like a butterfly, stinging like a bee. He was fighting like Muhammad Ali. He was fighting like you decafs and old media like to call running. He was running according to the old media standards. But ironically, Kambosos now wants a war. I find that very hypocritical. The only way Kambosos is gonna get a war is fighting Pitbull Cruz. That's the only way. We know Lomachenko is not gonna give him a war the way he ran against Teofimo Lopez for 7 rounds. When Lomachenko lost to Teo, he was running all night. And last but not least, Kambosos continues to say he wants to fight in Australia in front of 80,000 fans. But let's all be realistic. With this new COVID breakout, Omicron, it's not going to happen since Australia has one of the strictest COVID protocols than many other countries, including the United States. Now, unless a miracle takes place, that's going to be nearly impossible to do, since the COVID cases are rising by the day. And in some countries, their COVID cases are higher now than a year ago. So again, is that Teofimo Lopez playback? Remember when Teo tried to justify ducking Devin Haney undisputed fight by stating, who will turn down a Kambosos fight in Australia to fight in front of 60,000 fans? And then when the opportunity presented itself, all of a sudden, Teo threatened Triller to vacate his IBF belt if they force him to fight in Australia. Nevertheless, the good news is Eddie Hearn is presenting multiple offers for different locations if the fight can take place in Australia. And from what I was told, Eddie Hearn will meet with the Australian government to see if he's going to be approved to host an event with such a magnitude. Therefore, it's all up to Kambosos to fight Devin Haney. We shall see if Kambosos is a Spartan or an actor that's been playing his role properly. Only time will tell if Kambosos wants to go down as a legendary fighter or a legendary duck. With that being stated, drop your thoughts in the comment section below, subscribe below, and click on the notification bell. I'm gonna leave you guys with what the CEO of Devin Haney Promotion, the father and trainer of the WBC lightweight champion, Bill Haney, had to say. The whole world wants to know what's next. That's always the next question. The whole world wants to see Devin Haney versus George Kambosos undisputed fight. So where does that fight stand today?
As far as I know, I expect George Kambosos to be a man of his word, in the sense of that the next fight and only fight that he wanted to do was completely make right of everything that Teofimo Lopez did, everything that Lomachenko has done, and bring an absolute certainty to who's the undisputed champion in the lightweight division. He's on numerous occasions has DM'd Devin and talked to him, you know what I mean? And this started before the Teofimo Lopez fight. There was no communication whatsoever between Devin and Teofimo privately. There was a lot of public stuff and just bad blood between the two of those guys. If you see an infamous meeting between Teofimo and us, Teofimo shook hands with me, but wouldn't shake hands with Dev. He would agree to the fight with me, but didn't necessarily agree to the fight with Dev to a degree. But that's on a whole nother thing. What you had was a unique situation in the fact that Devin and George Kambosos was talking, and they spoke about it. George Kambosos had went back and forth to a certain degree, and initially he said that Devin was not he was an email champion. Then he came back and said that Devin was, a real champion, and that he would want the real WBC World Lightweight title, right? So I could see where there could be some inconsistencies, because when it came time to then George winning the fight, and then Devin handling this business, he said that he was going to go out and look at some other fights and consider some other fighters. So that was another sign to me that it was showing a little bit of inconsistency. So now we come to the fight actually happening, and he's saying he wanted to happen in Australia, right? We said, okay, we'll come to Australia or wherever it needs to happen at. We're willing to make this happen to, like I say, bring some credibility to the lightweight division in terms of bringing certainty to who's the undisputed champion. It's no other fight to me to be made in the lightweight division other than George Kambosos and Devin Haney.
We all hope George Kambosos is a man of his word. We all know if two fighters want to fight, the fight can happen. Have Eddie Hearn started negotiating with Kambosos?
Absolutely, Eddie Hearn is doing everything that he can do to make this fight happen. On down to speaking to several different people in Australia, including the Australian government, he's went publicly on different platforms and says that he would be speaking to, and speaking on the behalf of Devin in terms of our willingness to make this thing happen for the wonderful people down in Australia.
When the last time you spoke to Eddie about this fight, and what was he saying?
Oh, thanks. That's even a good question, because I just spoke to him within the last hour, and he assured me that he's doing everything that he can to, like I said, to let the wonderful people in Australia, and including the Australian government, know that Devin Haney is doing everything that he can do to come there and bring his talents there and hopefully entertain and put on a wonderful performance in front of a great crowd. That's what we look forward to, as going down to Australia and entertaining the fans.
Netflix should make a series when ducking Devin Haney goes wrong. Episode 1, Loma. Episode 2, Tio. Episode 3, Kambosos. And episode 4, Ryan Garcia. So what's the last thing you want to say to the fans?
Well, I don't want to leave any stone unturned. I want to definitely applaud the Kambosos team and what they've done thus far, right? Shout out to Lou DiBella, you know what I mean, hanging in with a fighter, having a resurgence, with a champion that he can, be involved in some sort of the decision making. I know that it's a new day and time with this social media. Thank you for having me on your platform. Akhi, as always, the fighters of today who you've seen on a couple things that changed on George Kambosos' IG. One, him, the one thing that I like, let me talk about that I like, is that I see ferocious promotions on there. Shout out to his team and what they're doing. The thing that I didn't like necessarily to see is that he put Undisputed on there. This is something that he said that he would not do, right? So it's a chance for them to make right, instead of making this thing more wrong. And like the brother had said that called in, don't be number 4, right? Do not be number 4, Mr. Kambosos.
Devin Haney. There is only one fight for Devin Haney in boxing, and there is only one fight for George Kambosos in boxing. It's the big undisputed argument. Who is undisputed? I will answer that as Father Christmas. Ho ho, I will tell you, George Kambosos is definitely not the undisputed world lightweight champion, because Devin Haney is the WBC lightweight world champion. And as great as Mr. Kambosos is, he cannot say he is undisputed until he challenges and potentially defeats Devin Haney. Chance to do it in Australia, create a historic moment after your emphatic win at Madison Square Garden. So let's bring the gifts out to the people. George Kambosos against Devin Haney. April, May 2022, anywhere you want in Australia.